everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting, November 20th, 2024. We do have a quorum. I'd like to begin by saying something.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. We're here with the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. I think the community is aware that the Board of Education at the last meeting, at the November 6th meeting, we had a pretty comprehensive report as well as discussion regarding the regionalization plan for the State Education Department. There are some items on the agenda this evening that we placed for the board's consideration. I think at this time, Ms. Zelensky, our board president, is going to make some comments, statements regarding the plan.
Okay, so I'd like to address everybody today and thank you for attending. This has been an unprecedented start to the school year for all districts across New York State, as we are awaiting recommendation from the Rockefeller Institute regarding the Foundation Aid formula that determines state aid to school districts. We are also awaiting recommendations from the Blue Ribbon Commission on graduation requirements concerning the development of the portrait of a graduate. And most recently, the field of education was faced with regionalization plan from the State Education Department that will greatly impact all school districts across Long Island. Back on September 25th of this year, the New York State Education Department published an emergency rule on regionalization in the New York State Register. It has been suggested by State Ed that its purpose is to allow districts to begin conversations about sharing resources, staff, and more. With regionalization, the state, with the exception of the Big Five, which are Albany, New York City, Rochester, Syracuse, and Utica, would be divided into 37 supervisory districts with a BOCES district superintendent overseeing and enforcing the regionalization plan for that particular area. The BOCES district superintendent would be the direct liaison between local schools and the state education commissioner. This would remove all local control of school districts. If this were simply a conversation, then why is it enacted under emergency rule? While the loss of local control is just one of the many negative impacts of regionalization on our schools, what is even more troubling is the misuse of the emergency regulatory powers to enact the rule. Under the New York law, districts are bound to comply with emergency regulations immediately and with proposed regulations once they are made permanent. The emergencies rules statement of purpose mentions specific reasons underlying the finding of necessity. The department recognizes the need for a strategic approach to addressing educational disparities, fiscal constraints, and operational inefficiencies across school districts in New York State. Regionalization helps solve these challenges, creating equitable educational opportunities through partnerships among school districts, boards of cooperative educational services, which is BOCES, and other stakeholders. The goal of regionalization plans is to increase opportunities for students, build upon the existing strength and capacity in communities across New York, address enrollment challenges, and manage fiscal constraints by fostering equitable educational environments through collaboration. The proposed amendment requires that each component school district of a supervisory district work with the district superintendent of BOCES to develop and implement a regional plan at least every 10 years. This would result in 37 plans, one for each supervisory district. The regionalization planning process must, at a minimum, include the district superintendent of BOCES facilitating, 1, a strengths and needs school on a form prescribed by the commissioner, 2, convening to the school districts and stakeholders, 3, an interim progress report on a form prescribed by the commissioner, and 4, the regionalization plan on a form prescribed by the commissioner. Component school districts and supervisory districts of BOCES would begin implementing the approved regionalization plans no later than the start of the 26-27 school year. All the actions here that are prescribed by the commissioner are with the commissioner and the BOCES district superintendent enforcing the regulations. There is no mention of local school districts or school boards except for implementing the approved regionalization plans. The language of the proposed rule states, the district superintendent, again, BOCES district superintendents, shall serve as the representative of the commissioner for a sole supervisory district, example, Nassau or other county BOCES. They are responsible for overseeing the BOCES and the component school districts of supervisory districts. This role includes, but is not limited to, overseeing the development and implementation of regionalization plans pursuant to subpart 124-2 of this part, providing services for and facilitating collaboration among component school districts, carrying out duties and responsibilities as directed by the commissioner, reporting to and attending all board meetings and acting as the primary liaison between the department and the BOCES. So as we discussed at our November 6th meeting and briefly tonight here, we have significant concerns about the state education department's plan to enforce a regionalization plan across New York State for the following reasons. Despite the correspondence that has been produced and assimilated to the field, there are way too many questions concerning the intent, implementation process, lack of research that suggests regionalization will be beneficial to all parties involved, and the possible unintended consequences that may develop resulting from the plan. The erosion of local control, the depletion of the community's identity, and the possible disregard of elected officials, board members of a district, and the violation of the State Administrative Procedure Act, also known as SAPA, and the New York State Education Law that requires emergency rules be used only when it is necessary for the preservation of public health, safety, or general welfare of the public. Furthermore, SAPA requires that data should be gathered, considered, and a criteria developed that outlines the regionalization process, allowing for meaningful public comments, which has not been done. Because of the aforementioned concerns, the board has decided to place the following resolutions on tonight's agenda. 1, resolution authorizing the commencement of Article 78 proceedings against New York State Department of Education, the Commissioner of State Education Department, and the Board of Regents. Article 78 proceedings are lawsuits used to challenge an action made by state and local governments. 2, resolution retaining the services of Regano to represent the district in the Article 78 proceedings. At this time, there are several districts that have already committed to join the Article 78 proceedings, and many other districts plan to join shortly. The ultimate cost of the lawsuit will be split equally among all districts involved, and we have established a $15,000 cap to our spending. Please be aware that this is a hard decision for the board to make, as there is cost factors associated with these resolutions, but we feel that the initial cost is necessary to protect the Center Merchant School District against actions that can deplete our identity and disrupt the education of our children. Being the public comment period ends November 24th, we are under time constraints and feel it is necessary to take action now before this emergency regulation becomes law and is binding. At this time, we're going to ask the board to vote on the resolutions. And actually, before that, I do want to share that other. So, right here. So there are 2 things that I recently got today, right before I came here. The Township of Oyster Bay signed a letter of opposition, as well as the state senators are also signing a letter of opposition and submitting that. So I just wanted to make you all aware, Senator Dean Murray is on that list. He's our local senator, so I just thought that that's important for everybody to know that they are also opposed to this plan.
Thank you.
Okay, that does conclude the superintendent's report, so we can go to questions.
Okay. Questions and comments regarding tonight's agenda only?
I apologize, I'm late to the game and as I can see it now on Facebook.
Or you can look at
So I'm just trying to, if you can kind of give me like a, maybe almost a, not the dumbed down version, but like where this came from, what, you know, like losing the identity. I'm just trying to understand what this whole, and I apologize for not being here last meeting, but it's a little bit lot, seems like a lot. And then I guess, like I read the letter that we signed, which is unusual for this board, this district to do, so obviously it's something you guys really feel strongly about. So if you could just kind of maybe give like a watered down, what are we going to lose, and that we're going to spend $15,000, up to $15,000, but obviously we're looking to possibly lose a lot, so kind of a dumbed down version would be appreciated.
Sure. So, sure. So what it appears that we're looking at is, and one thing that I want to kind of stress about is that the state itself, in terms of the plan, in terms of the communication that's been delivered to the field and to everyone involved in this regionalization plan, is inconsistent and it's not very, very clear. So we have a lot of questions as a field. That's one issue. The other issue is the timeliness of it. So this was first presented to the field back in August, with a timeline of a closing period of 60 days, which comes up to November 24th, with full implementation in January. So that piece itself, what it entails is us creating a plan as a component, as the 51 component districts that are part of Eastern Suffolk Coast. So we would work with the district superintendent to create a plan to sort of level out the opportunities and resources that are available to all students in all 51 districts. So the possibility, and this is something that hasn't really been clearly specified as to how those resources are going to be shared and pooled. So does that mean that a student from another district may come to us to benefit from a particular program that we're running, that particular district is not running? Yes, that is a possibility.
So on that, like the negative of that, like a student come here and then would they be like, we have an amazing self-contained program. So like something like that.
Yes,
And then
it could be that, it could be extracurricular activities, because we have to complete a survey, a pretty comprehensive survey that providing all the demographics associated with the district, which included not just academics and student population, race and ethnicity, but the extracurricular offerings that we offer in Celebration, which included sports, clubs, some of the resources we have available. Every district had to do that. So what they're deciding to do is look at that survey, look at that data assessment, and come up with a plan that we will sit with the district superintendent of Eastern Suffolk Coast and come up with a plan to try to find a way to equalize the opportunities available to students within the region. Now, what does that look like? We're not really too sure, because the state is suggesting that it doesn't mean consolidation, it doesn't mean mergers, but that's one of the fears that individuals have, that it could lead to forced mergers of districts and consolidating resources and even consolidating staff.
But what they're saying is different than what is in the actual regulations. And they did this under emergency rule, not eliminating the comment period or people to really know about this. If it was just a conversation, then it could have just been that. It doesn't need to be a mandate that you have to follow this. They're saying that you can opt out, but in the regulations, there's no opting out, and it is a 10-year, a 10-year plan. So once the 10 years is up, then you can revise the regionalization plan that has been adopted by your BOCES superintendent. Because that's what will happen. So all of Eastern Suffolk BOCES, let's say, would be one district. So the entire East End, all the, how many school districts? 51 school districts could be in one, under one BOCES superintendent.
So are we requesting to slow the process down? Because like you can see there is some upside to it. Like, you've got districts, neighboring districts who have amazing programs that we can't offer, not been able to have. Are we asking to not do it all? What are we, just
The concern really is the violation of the SAPA process and going around the regulations and not going through the necessary channels that they should be doing. So that is the bulk of the concern. And then we're going to see what will happen after that. Hopefully they slow the process down. I think we need to have answers before they can move any further forward. kind of force this on people.
And then, I'm sorry, is that okay?
Okay.
Oh, no, it's good.
Because, you know, in meeting 11, like I saw, like today, I saw big schools, more
There's
NASA and
also-
stuff, other districts
Yes,
in this area, do we have like an ESM or like? do we
there
have
are other
districts?
school districts, I can't disclose that right now, but, you will be hearing about more school districts this week.
And we're putting a $15,000 cap on this for right now, and then if you're going to put that cap any higher, will you come back to the
Of
community
course,
on that?
yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
The more school districts that join, the less it would be for every
The
school.
less retention. Because the cost of the lawsuit itself will be split equally among the districts that join the suit.
With this law firm that it's
Yes,
everybody's
yes.
using the same law.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Did I hear that you said that they're also disbanding the Board of Education in the local district?
Well,
and
that's
the superintendent?
essentially what would happen if they have if it's under BOCES control. Because then the BOCES superintendent would be communicating directly with, the Commissioner of Education. There would still be a board, I presume, but I'm not exactly sure what the role and responsibilities would be because all of the finances and the staffing decisions would all be run through the BOCES superintendent, that's my impression from doing the research.
But they would take, so then we would not have a superintendent, the superintendent would be,
None of that has been determined.
okay, because,
These are questions that we still have,
Yeah,
that have not been revealed to the field.
there's a lot of questions.
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot, it sounds like there's a lot and not many
I've
answers.
been
Yes.
researching this since I found out about it. I've been doing the best that I can to really, communicate with people, find out what other districts are doing, and just learn everything I can because there's a lot to this. Not only as a board member, but as a parent, as an educator, there's so many factors to this.
Because it sounds like we're losing our voices.
Yeah.
Small town.
That's the potentiality.
Yeah.
Is there a place that as a community members can voice their concern to the state directly?
Yes,
Is there a link that I can share out and say?
it's actually on our website. So when you go onto our website, we do have a section called visualization plan. We did put links as to some of the things we're doing, the opposition letter that Ms. Rayburn just referred to on November 6th, presentation as well as another presentation by Locust Valley, which is, we thought they did a good job. And we also put links onto the New York State website, their section of regionalization, so that you can have an idea as to some of the information that they're putting forward as well.
But is there a link, is there?
Yes, there's a link
We're not
up in the letter we have itself, that you can link to a survey that you could actually post in terms of the opposition. It's like a Google.
The comment period though it ends November 24th, so it has to be done before then.
Within the next one.
Yeah.
This is why the urgency.
Yeah.
Are we getting any sense, like, this seems financial to me, like, that they're having us do this and kind of, are we getting any sense that that could be an issue, like, that we're looking at, and really Carrie would kind of know, but like, is this, well, are we looking at possible issues with aid, and they're trying to fix that this way before we have a problem, or is this?
It's not being spoken of at the SBO level. It's more right now at the higher level. My conversations with the BOCES too, they don't see that there's any impact.
Yeah.
They don't want to take over all these districts. But it's, further information but at my level right now, there has not been any voice of concern.
In the regulations, it mentions sharing, fiscal responsibilities and, staffing, all of that is mentioned in there. So they're looking to do something with the finances and we won't have any say.
And that is true, what she is saying, because our chief just went up to Albany last Wednesday, and he was told that by David Frank. That it's all gonna kind of merge as another financial carries it up more about it too.
Okay.
So, and we actually spoke to Buffalo today, Buffalo School District, just so we get an idea of where we are and how does the tribes gonna impact. It's all gonna go as a group. So we're doing, we're grouping in.
And the gentleman that Thomasina just mentioned is the Assistant Commissioner of Education at the New York State Education Department, who actually had a webinar on October 29th for individuals within Suffolk and Nassau County to attend in terms of board members and superintendents. And they went through the regionalization plan and they tried to dispel some of the concerns that exist within the field. But unfortunately, as Ms. Lonsky mentioned, some of the commentary doesn't really align with the language of the regulatory action that they're taking. So that's the question that we have. So going back to your original question, are we looking for possibly a state order? Yes. Maybe they can slow the process down, involve more stakeholders, include them in the conversation, address the concerns that individuals in the field are expressing, and find a way to allay the concerns if they can, if the intention is not what some suspect it to be. Any other questions, concerns? Cool. You good?
Okay, is there time for further discussion on the consent agenda?
You good?
Yeah. The donations. No other questions, right? Good. All right, donations. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the following donations. One clarinet by Mrs. Joanne Gustafson, okay. Approximate value of $75. Motion?
Motion. Second.
Discussion?
I just want to say that this donation came from a relationship from Pam Mazel, our music teacher at the elementary school. So thank you, Pam, for reaching out to, I believe this is a neighbor, someone who lives in our community that donated that, and we are very appreciative of every donation.
Thank you, Pam and Mrs. Gustafson for the donation. Okay, consent agenda, all in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Consent agenda approval for items 8A through 13B. Be it resolved, a motion to approve the consent agenda items 8A through 13B. Motion?
Table or procedure to table it and discuss tonight?
Over discussion.
Discussion.
Yeah, is there,
What, 13B into?
what is the reasoning for wanting to table the items?
So I just wanted to discuss some motivation. I'm not for spending district funds on something which is speculative at this point. I think we heard a lot of commentary which is probably the fault of the state for not being extremely explicit and clear in what they put out in the movie. So they've been more specific, maybe a lot of this issue would be clear, but if you look at the regulations themselves, there may be 10 pages, something like that. Something that's this wide-reaching and complicated, you would expect this to be 50 to 100 pages. Lots of detail, process, and implementation, so they didn't do that. Okay, so all we have to go by is this skeleton outline, which essentially says these are the goals, these are what we'd like districts to do, and we have a tight timeline because of, among other things, financial constraints that many districts have felt. We're not in a situation where we've had those constraints, not as bad as some other districts. That may change. We don't know what the financing, the changes to the foundation aid are going to be. The Rockefeller Foundation recommendations, we have no idea where they're going. So that was part of the motivation that the state used to enact some emergency rules. I don't know why it's left as a comment period that's going on now. The emergency regulations are only in effect for 60 days, and they have to get reenacted or replaced with permanent regulations. So there is a process for that. I'm not claiming that it complies with SAPA. I don't know SAPA. We've tried to get a legal opinion on that. We haven't gotten that so far. So we don't know if any laws were broken specifically. But that's been the claim. Nevertheless, if you look at the motivation behind this, I think we can mostly agree that there's definite benefits that may be had from this. The example that comes to mind immediately, last year we tried to hire a foreign language teacher that was French certified. We could not do that. We could not find a teacher that was dual certified in French. So the consequence was we had to drop French in favor of Italian. We wouldn't have made that choice otherwise. Maybe we would have had Italian, maybe something else. If we were able to share resources across districts, it's pretty easy to imagine we could find a French teacher someplace in Suffolk County who stood something that we could, with virtual lessons, with something like that. It's perfectly within the stated goals of this regionalization plan that something like that could be enacted. And the process is also stated very clearly that the local district's superintendent meets with the BOCES superintendent in each region and develops a plan. So the statement from the state was, no district will be forced to do anything that is not agreed to in the plan. So if we don't agree to it, we don't have to do it. Yes, I agree there's ambiguity in the guidelines that the commissioner will use to approve plans. There's ambiguity, and that's part of the problem. But the whole premise of this is that we do not trust the state at face value for what they're saying. So this webinar that they had where Mr. Franklin's in attendance, he has addressed the concerns of districts that were raised with the education department. It's not in writing, it's verbal, it's a webinar. This is what they were told to go out and tell the community. So I don't discount that there are problems with the plan, but I disagree with the fact that this is going to take away the Board of Education. It's going to take away Dr. Soto's seat, that we will force to spend money on out-of-district students. These things have been denied left and right by the state. So the only conclusion is we do not trust the state at face value. And I just disagree with that. So I don't agree with spending district funds on a lawsuit which is based on this kind of premise.
I just would say I would agree as well, and the firm that you want, that the board wants to employ is not an education law lawyer. They specialize in environmental law, and I only found 3 other districts that they were supporting so far that have confirmed. And for the reasons stated before, I think a lot of this is speculation, and due to the recent political election that's occurred, I think there's a lot of things that are up in the air, and this whole thing may fall by the wayside anyway in a couple of months. We really don't know, and I'd rather also not spend district funds on the ones to be fiscally responsible right now at this time.
I'd rather be proactive than reactive. I'd rather be ahead of the curve instead of behind the curve. Politics is part of being on this board. Politics is part of school districts. At the end of the day, when I sat in that webinar, they were not clear. They were even laughing at the fact that they didn't have a plan, and they were joking. And I don't find it a joke when you're the ones hosting the webinar. I find it insulting because I'm wasting my hour and a half time to sit there and look for information that should be prevalent right on the tip of your tongue if you're the leader of the pack. And I have a problem when there's not a tip of the tongue leader of the pack unless you want to sign a card deal that's going to change payments every year. Right? And at the end of the day, education isn't a game. They do this stuff for the APR, they do this stuff for high state testing. At the end of the day, a board makes a decision, whether it's as a whole or not, to really upstand, not be bystanders, to what needs to be done in the field of education so that we're progressing at our pace, at what Senator Riches needs to do. So when we talk about a shared French teacher, we also have to communicate on how that also happened too, right? We might have found a French teacher, never know. Right, about 3 of them. So the idea behind that, the shared services, we do that already. Said this last meeting. Okay, if a school district needs a service for our students, they cross contract over, they have the conversations with either special ed director, they do the conversations with superintendents. Can we do better at communicating? Absolutely. Right? Can we look at better servicing students on the East End? So let's face it, that's where you can draw our line. Absolutely. Right? Can we make career centers? Can we do things better? Absolutely. But we don't need someone coming in from an outside look or an outside view to control the conversation, the dialogue that can really be had once a month with the 8 to 10 superintendents on the East End on their own. There are different curriculums that are going on. That's called education, right? Good educators are constantly networking. So for me, I don't want to sit behind a table. $15,000 is not a tremendous amount of money. I think it's smart to have a cap because we can't go all in. You can see the news on this topic, but we also lived this back in the day with APPR, high state testing, and we saw where that went to, and we're still trying to get out of the fight from that. And what's starting to happen? Well, now we're starting to look at learner profiles. Why? Because the parents that fought underneath from where it started in NASA, right? The parents that fought underneath about the high state testing started to get hurt, right? Then all of a sudden mental awareness, mental health, all of this stuff started to continuously build in schools because we were teaching developmentally inappropriate age groups certain subject areas in which they could not take, and we were then blaming the what? The teachers, the PR firms. So we have to kind of trust our gut, in my opinion, and I speak on my opinion, is let's be proactive and reactive.
I think you have really good valid points, and I think we already wrote a letter and expressed our concerns, and we're not saying we're voting for regionalization at this table. I don't think anyone here is voting for regionalization, but what we're saying is, or at least what I was saying is I would rather not spend this money to pursue litigation, because I think, I don't see how it's going to benefit us. I don't see what the outcome of that money is going to be. When you invest money in something, you should get a return, and we don't really know if we will. It's just not clear to me, so.
Is there an exit on the contract?
Yes.
What's the exit on the contract?
And I did talk to you.
So we can always revisit if we're not happy to exit the contract to continue, correct?
A motion to table the item?
Motion.
Second?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Table?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
No.
Motion carries, 3-2. Not tabling it.
We're gonna go one fell swoop, 13A, 13B.
Yes.
Are we all in agreement that 13A, 13A, 13B are two different resolutions, so.
Okay,
Let's separate the two resolutions so that they get sent to the other items and then just vote separately.
Yeah, can we table the choice of the lawyer, was, as mentioned, is there a reason why this lawyer was selected, or are we allowed to talk about that?
This is, a part of the other school districts we're joining.
So this is almost like a class action, so divide the cost a little.
Yes.
Correct.
If we did it ourselves, we would
We have to
small
pay for
number.
the entire.
So yes.
This would be a lot more expensive
Yeah,
to
what
do it ourselves.
So you want to put the two resolutions, so let's pull those and then you can go with consensus on these.
No problem, I do that.
So, right, you can take a motion to approve all the consent items with the exception of the two resolution on the second.
Can I have a motion to approve items 8A through 12? 12C?
12A.
Okay,
Sorry.
8A through 12A.
Motion.
Second, anybody?
We're just voting in the, I'm gonna be honest, I was reading for a minute.
For 8A through 12A.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
You can,
Yes.
yes.
Can I have a motion for consent agenda item 13A?
Motion.
Second.
What are we doing with
We're tabling, a motion to table it.
13.
What's that?
So that's not.
Okay.
That's not-
We did it on the
Well, we
votes,
were
so
gonna,
table.
no, we're not gonna
Now, so you
table.
vote.
Now she voted on, okay, so for 13A, motion to approve item 13A.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
I don't even see 13 names.
That's the two.
It's,
That's
it's not gonna
Underneath,
Two seconds.
on the front.
It's the one orange
Okay.
For you,
Oh, okay.
the commencement of Article 78 is
I'm not saying yes to anything, so.
It's for the Article 78 proceeding. Yes,
Yes.
go on, roll.
I'm doing the same thing I was doing.
Motion carries unanimously.
Wait.
We voted for that item, we tabled the item.
I don't
Correct,
understand.
but I didn't
That's
vote.
what, yeah.
No, I didn't vote.
Like I went for.
Did I?
You just
I don't remember you calling for a vote.
Okay.
You called for it. Just-
Okay,
retake.
so can I have a motion for the consent agenda item 13A?
You're doing it separately.
Yes,
Yes, correct.
13A.
She
said-
Regarding
Out loud what the
regarding
difference is.
visualization.
The difference between 13A and 13B.
13B is authorization of detention, so we're doing 13A first.
The orange one.
Okay, so.
13A.
Yeah.
The orange one is 13, which is
Yes.
just.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Amendment of the Article 78.
No.
No, okay.
Yes.
No.
So 3-2. Motion carries 3-2. Can I have a motion for consent agenda item 13B, authorization of retention of legal counsel?
Motion. Second.
No?
Yes. No.
No, this lawyer has never had a case in the past where he's worked in education law ever.
Are you researching on Google or did you call the firm?
I made some phone calls today. But, okay, I voted no, I'm not gonna do more commentary. Sorry.
Yes.
And
Yes.
okay, yes, so motion carries 3-2.
Single just no.
All right, if I could just interject just for 1 second, I want to acknowledge a retirement, a Lori Nguyen, who's a professional that works at our elementary school. She's worked for the district for the last 22 years. She actually began working, and this is something that Janine Paul told me about today, which I had no idea. But she began her career in some way, she worked in the business office, in the archive. In July 2003, she transitioned to a professional role where she truly made her mark. She did a difference in classes and the lives of our kids. Throughout her years of service, Lori has consistently demonstrated compassion, love, and understanding for all students. She has always been a team player, offering her support and taking initiative whenever needed. Her dedication to our students, especially those in special education, have been evident in everything that she's done. Lori and her husband Kevin were vital with the CM sector in its inception, always putting the best interest of our students at the forefront. As Lori looks forward to a new chapter of her life, she will be spending more time with her new grandchild, a role that she is sure to excel in, just as she has in every other role she's taken on in celebration. Lori will be missed by all. We wish her the best in her retirement. We wish her long love, joy, and relaxation. And Lori, thank you for everything you've done. You will truly be missed by students, by staff, and every life that you touched here in Taiwan. And thank you for your service.
Congratulations, Lori. Thank you for your time and dedication to the district.
Good spot.
All right, so now, general public comment. Guidelines for general public comment, there's a 3-minute time limit for participant. Does anybody like to speak?
I just have a couple of questions, and there's been a whole lot of change administration-wise in the district, and having the child that just graduated, the importance of guidance. I know we have Mrs. Fabian just left, and I know that it seems from what I've been reading on the agendas that we didn't fast for that position, we hired instead of a full-time middle school AP So I'm concerned a little bit, you know, 2 in the district, and there's a ton of kids going to our district, and I know how important the guidance department is to hold they play with our kids. So just curious, what is our plan? Do we have a plan for administration across the, like, what is going on with that?
So if I can address that.
Please.
2 things we've done. So the individual that we hired for the middle school as a middle school assistant principal, Adonda Long, he is not only the middle school principal, but he is overseeing guidance. Not to the same capacity that Ms. Fabian did in the past, where she was the director of guidance, but he is overseeing guidance. In addition to that, last month we did reinstate the guidance chairperson. So we did offer the position to someone internally that has worked with the district for many, many years, has proven herself, Nathan Marino, to do an outstanding job. So now the responsibilities and the position itself is divided somewhat equally between Ms. Marino, who is the guidance chairperson, as well as Mr. Donago, and we still expect responsibilities to fall on the building administration as well. In terms of Ms. Mangonia, the high school principal, as well as Ms. Foreman, the assistant principal. So these responsibilities, despite the fact that they're not sitting solely with one person as they did in the past with Ms. Fabian, we are splitting them up because one of the concerns that we had from Ms. Fabian when she left was that guidance was too much to bear, where she was the assistant principal of the middle school, and a lot of her time and responsibility was dedicated to that position. So we did hear that concern, and we're trying to divide the responsibilities in a more equitable fashion in ways that we think can be absorbed more equally by the individuals involved. So the concern is still strong for guidance, the work that we need to do for guidance. I think you know, we've had this conversation for decades. It hasn't gone away. But we hope that this new machination is going to be able to put the emphasis and the time that is needed to that position. And by someone who is internal, who is a guidance counselor, who has done the work and lived the life of a guidance counselor for many years. I think we tried to departmentalize it in such a way in the past that we had individuals who I think did an amazing job. I think Ms. Fabian did a great job with everything that she did in her work with guidance, but she wasn't a trained, experienced guidance counselor. So that's the difference I think that we are emphasizing right now.
And we're not fearful that Ms. Marino was a tremendous guidance counselor, is no longer being taken away from kids to now do the administration portion. I just feel like we have a small department and we have to pull one of our own to not be hands-on with kids makes me nervous, and that's kind of why Ms. Fabian or whoever was the director was not necessarily hands-on with kids. So are we?
So I can speak to that. In the past, and I think you recall this, what we used to do with the guidance chairperson was that we would reduce the caseload. We're not doing this in this time frame in terms of the new machination of the position. So a lot of the organization that is going to be required of the guidance chairperson will be done after school, before school, when she has available time that should not interfere with her day-to-day activities in terms of working with students, increasing contact time with students, and making sure that the events that we run through the guidance department are still run effectively, and they still have the oversight that is needed to have a productive program within guidance. You're welcome. Any other questions? Anyone else?
I think second. So I attended the Booster Club for the athletics, or San Richard's Athletics Booster Club, and I'm going to say that the work that Rob and Jen and Lindsay are doing in there is thankless. It's an army of work. My head was spinning. And the reason I bring it up is because membership is something that's important to all of these booster clubs. And I think it's important for people to hear this from our end too, of like what we value and what we need help with as things go on, and what these four women are accomplishing are a big feat of a lot of athletic programs, which hopefully can continue to grow, but hopefully maybe other four people that might watch us tonight, somebody shows up to their next meeting and kind of looks to take on some roles because it is a big part of how we support our kids. And they often have to find the answers and shuffle the paperwork, and like I said, my head was spinning, when I left there. One, when I sit in meetings, I always get ideas, but then two, the other side of like, wow, the organization, the dedication, the meaningful conversations, the how can we get better conversations, you know, what can we do to help within the community, you know, I think it was powerful, and, you know, I just kind of wanted to say that, you know, I appreciate that time from my lens, from my two boys that play, but from my perspective up here, I think it's an amazing thing, so thank you guys.
Okay, so some informational items. The next Board of Education meeting has been changed. It's now Wednesday, December 18th at 7 p.m. at Clayton Huey, the all-purpose room. So we are going to move into executive session for the purposes of personnel, discuss personnel matters. We will not take any action when we come out. We'll just adjourn the meeting. So can I have a motion to adjourn the public session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous, unanimous.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.